but declassified documents and sworn testimony tell a very different story. A story of a secret manhunt that continued long after the public was told it was over. A story the FBI seems to want everyone to forget. The real question is, why?
Blood on the grass won't wash away. Undetected footprints hidden in the mud.
April 19th, 1995, at 9:02 a.m., the heart of America is shattered. A 7,000-pound truck bomb detonates outside the Alfred P. Maury Federal Building in Oklahoma City. In the chaotic hours that follow, as a horrified nation watches rescuers dig through the rubble, the FBI launches one of the most intense manhunts in its history. They have a description, then a sketch of a suspect seen with a man that soon identifies Timothy McVeigh. He's described as stocky, with dark hair, a distinct tattoo, and a baseball cap with a zigzag logo. They call him John Doe number 2. Tips pour in by the thousands. The sketch is plastered on every TV screen, in every newspaper. The hunt is on for the accomplice to the worst act of domestic terrorism the country had ever seen. And then nothing. Just as quickly as he appeared, the FBI announced he was a ghost, a phantom, a simple case of mistaken identity. The file was closed, but declassified documents and sworn testimony tell a very different story. A story of a secret manhunt that continued long after the public was told it was over. A story the FBI seems to want everyone to forget. The real question is, why? So, how did the FBI explain away a suspect who was, for a moment, in the most wanted man in America? The official story is all about the fallibility of human memory. Here's a timeline they laid out. April 17th, 1995, 2 days before the bombing, Timothy McVeigh walked into Elliott's body shop in Junction City, Kansas. He was there to rent the Ryder truck that would carry his bomb. According to the FBI, the key witness at the rental agency just got their memories mixed up. See, the day after McVeigh's visit, an Army private named Todd Bunting came into the same shop to rent a truck for a personal move. Todd happened to fit the general description: stocky, dark hair, and he was wearing a Carolina Panthers baseball cap with its distinctive logo. The FBI's official theory, which was later backed by a grand jury, is that the memory of Todd got fused with the memory of McVeigh. It's a psychological phenomenon called unconscious transference, where a face you see in one context get mistakenly recalled in another. Tom Kissinger, the mechanic who worked with the sketch artist, was initially certain he saw this second man with McVeigh, but he later testified that he was probably thinking of Todd Bunting when he gave the description. With that, the case was pretty much closed. An FBI spokesperson dismissed any more questions, saying they were chasing ghosts. John Doe number 2 never existed. He was a figment of a confused memory. It's a neat explanation. It simplifies the story. It shrinks the cast of characters and lets the prosecution focus clearly on McVeigh and his known accomplices, Terry Nichols and Michael Fortifer. It takes a terrifying national mystery and makes a manageable crime committed by a small group. But while the FBI was publicly closing the file, behind the scenes, internal memos and witness statements suggested the ghost they were chasing was very, very real. The problem with the official story is this: it all hinges on this idea that the John Doe number 2 description came from a single mistake at Elliott's body shop. But that just isn't true. The FBI wasn't dealing with one confused witness. They were dealing with a flood of them, in different places, all describing a man who looked remarkably similar. While the FBI was publicly pushing the Todd Bunting theory, they were privately drowning in leads that didn't fit their neat story. The 1997 grand jury itself noted testimony from over 24 witnesses who saw someone resembling the phantom suspect. Now their accounts varied in some details. That's normal for eyewitnesses. but the core description kept popping up. A stocky, dark-haired man seen with McVeigh. And these sightings weren't just at the rental agency in Kansas. They were happening all over Kansas and Oklahoma in the crucial days and hours before the attack. The official explanation asks us to believe that all these unrelated people in different places all suffered a kind of mass delusion, independently hallucinating the same person. It requires us to ignore people who were certain about what they saw. It was these other sightings, far from the supposed memory mix up at the body shop, that kept the specter of John Doe number 2 alive inside the investigation, even as he was being publicly erased. Even at the body shop, the story was more complicated. While one mechanic may have changed his story, other employees who were there when McVeigh rented the truck never backed down. McVeigh didn't arrive alone, and that's the thread that, when you pull it, begins to unravel the whole official story. If John Doe number 2 wasn't just a memory ghost from the rental shop, then who was he, and where did he go? Once you start looking past the official explanation, the evidence for a third man is unsettling. It's not one single clue, but a pattern of similar stories from unconnected people who's adding another layer to the mystery. Let's go to a Subway sandwich shop in Junction City, Kansas on April 18th, the day before the bombing. A clerk named Leah McGowan and her coworker served three men who rolled up in the yellow Ryder truck. Two of them matched the description of Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. The third, a shorter, muscular, dark-haired man, a dead ringer for the John Doe number 2 sketch. Leah thought it was important enough to call the FBI. Agents came, interviewed the staff, and confiscated the shop security tape. That tape has never been released to the public. The FBI says the footage was reviewed and wasn't helpful, but for many, that tape is a critical piece of withheld evidence. If it showed nothing, why not release it and end the speculation? Then there's Morris John Cooper Jr. On the morning of the bombing, just an hour before the blast, John was in a parking lot a block from the Maury building. He saw a man he later identified as Timothy McVeigh with another man who fit the John Doe number 2 description. He watched him get into a light-colored car, a lot like the one McVeigh was arrested in later. John called the FBI with his tip, but he was never contacted again about it. And there are more. A housekeeper at the Dreamland Motel where McVeigh stayed told the FBI she saw a man who looked like John Doe number 2 near a Ryder truck. A survivor of the blast, Deanna Bradley, who tragically lost a leg in the attack, was adamant that she saw two men get out of the Ryder truck just before the explosion. While her descriptions were inconsistent during a difficult testimony, she was sure of one thing: there were two men. Individually, you can try to dismiss any of these accounts. Witness memories aren't perfect. Coincidences happen. But when you put them all together, they form a disturbing picture. From the truck rental to a Subway shop, from a motel parking lot to the curb outside the Maury's building itself, people kept describing the same man. This wasn't a single mistake. This was a trail. And for some reason, it was a trail the FBI seemed determined to prove led nowhere. If the evidence for John Doe number 2 is so compelling, it begs the biggest question of all. Why would the FBI and the Department of Justice insist he was a phantom? Why shut the book on a potential accomplice in a mass murder? This is where the story gets even darker. One major theory points to the Aryan Republican Army, or ARA. This was a white supremacist group that robbed 22 banks across the Midwest in the 90s to fund a war against the government. A member of the ARA, a man named Michael Brescia, bore a striking resemblance to the John Doe number 2 sketch. Timothy McVeigh's own defense lawyer, Stephen Jones, was convinced McVeigh had connections to this group and was covering for them. The FBI investigated, but officially said they found no direct link between Michael or the ARA and the bombing itself. But it's the story of Kenneth Trinidad that offers the most chilling reason for cover-up. In August of 1995, 4 months after the bombing, Kenneth, a 44-year-old construction worker, was picked up on a parole violation. and sent to the Federal Transfer Center in Oklahoma. A few days later, he was found dead in his cell, hanged with a bedsheet. The government immediately ruled it that he took his own life. But when his family received the body, they were horrified. It was covered in bruises and cuts. His head was battered. His throat was slashed. It looked less like a take yourself out and more like a man who'd been beaten to death. Oklahoma's own chief medical examiner even stated it was very likely he was murdered. Here's the crucial link. Kenneth Trinidad, with his muscular build, dark hair, and a dragon tattoo, was a near perfect match for the description of John Doe number 2. The family believes that federal agents still secretly hunting for the bomber's accomplice mistook Kenneth for their man. They think he was interrogated, tortured for information he didn't have, and was killed in his cell. A later Inspector General report, while agreeing with the take yourself out ruling, slammed the FBI and the Bureau of Prisons for a significantly flawed investigation and noted that several federal employees made false statements. If this theory is true, it provides a powerful motive for the government to make the entire John Doe number 2 manhunt just disappear. Finally, there is the most explosive theory that John Doe number 2 was a federal informant. This idea suggests that the FBI or another agency had a mole inside an extremist group and knew about a plot, but failed to stop it. If their mystery man was one of their own, his public capture would expose not just the informant, but the agency's catastrophic failure to prevent the attack. In the end, you're left with two stories. The first is the official one, a straightforward case of domestic terrorism by Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. In this version, John Doe number 2 is a ghost, a glitch in memory, rightly dismissed, the case is closed. The second story is much messier. It's pieced together from eyewitnesses who won't be dismissed, from withheld documents, and from the violent death of a man in federal custody. In this version, John Doe number 2 is not a ghost, but a man who got away. The loose thread that, if pulled, could unravel the entire official story of the bombing. He is the face in the sketch that still haunts investigators and victims' families. The FBI says they chased a ghost and found nothing, but the evidence suggests they chased a man when the trail led somewhere they couldn't or wouldn't go. They declared him a phantom and told us all to forget him. The file was closed. The facts remain open. Was it really just a case of mistaken identity, or is John Doe number 2 one of the most troubling secrets the Bureau has ever kept? The manhunt is over, but the mystery is not. The story of John Doe number 2 is a stark reminder that history is often more complex than the official record suggests. There are still so many unanswered questions about what really happened in Oklahoma City. What do y'all believe? Was he a phantom of memory or a key player who vanished? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you want to keep digging in the forgotten chapters of history, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss my next investigation. Thank you all for watching.
Blood on the grass won't wash away. Undetected footprints hidden in the mud.